What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be answering your birth/postpartum questions. And if you do not follow me on Instagram, make sure to go follow me on Instagram so you can participate in our next Q&A. What is the recovery/healing process like down there? I feel like it's very different for every person depending on how bad they tear, how big their baby is, how their birth goes, how traumatic it is. My process, I would say, was not that bad. Right after I gave birth, I really didn't have a lot of pain in that area because of the numbing stuff they put on there to like stitch me up. But literally the worst pain ever was my butthole. Like, my hemorrhoids were so bad that I couldn't like sit on it. And it just, everything around that area hurt. Like, I think it took away the pain from like that area because of my butthole. Like, they talk about how the first pee right after you give birth is the worst. And I was terrified of that. And I literally peed and it felt just like a normal pee. How did you choose the name Asher? Well, during our whole pregnancy, we watched All American and we really loved the name Spencer James. And we liked the name Asher because we really hadn't heard of that name. And I was like, let's combine Asher with Spencer James's name and make Asher James. So that's where that came from. How do you and your partner adjust to being parents? I don't know. We already had done everything together before Asher was here. So I would say that really helped with us. We do have our moments that are like strenuous on our relationship because of course we put Asher first in most cases. I say finding time for us really helps us. And adjusting to being parents is hard in some ways and easy in some. I just feel like it's different for everyone. We have a little co-star. He is in the phase where he only wants mama right now. So Christian just got done feeding him and he wanted mama. So let's get back to it. Hardest part about first few days postpartum. I would say the hardest part was not having my baby there, and I had the postpartum blues. Like, I feel like it would have went different if I would have had Asher with me because he was in the NICU for the first 4 days. But on like the healing and everything the first few days, like I said, it was literally just pain in my butthole, guys. The down there area healed really good and really fast. So there wasn't a lot of pain there. It was just my butthole. And I was terrified to go poop. How long was labor? My water broke at 12 o'clock that night and I had Asher around like 1:50, 2 o'clock. So roughly I was in labor for 2 hours. So it was not long at all with labor. You see what, you're so silly. Did you monitor and treat your own blood sugars while in labor? Yes, I did. If you're a type 1 diabetic and you use a pump, an Omnipod, or shots, they will ask you beforehand your plan on that. You can either have the nurses control it or you can be in control of it. And my doctor that I saw every week that would monitor me told me to make sure I was in control of it, did all my settings in there so they were ready, because you gotta think about it. A nurse doesn't know your body like you do. And even though they're nurses and they know how to take care of diabetics, they don't know how your sugar is going to react or how it is. Like, you know your body. So my doctor said that she felt I would do better if I controlled it, and I did. And it was really high during labor. Like, right after labor, my blood sugar shot up to like 300, and it took a couple of hours to get it down. I think it was just because like all the stress on my body. But if you're capable of it, I highly suggest you taking care of it because you know your body better. How has your mental health been? My mental health, I feel like overall was really good. I did have a few days that just were not good at all. I think everyone goes through like the blues. In other cases, some it's worse than others. I naturally had anxiety beforehand, and afterwards my anxiety was just really bad. Like, really bad. We have talked before about it that I feel like my mental health was worse during pregnancy than after, just from the fact of how like strenuous my pregnancy was. How has your confidence been? So proud of you for completing the 75 hard. Thank you so much. Honestly, my confidence has always been really good. Like, I've always been a very confident person because I think about all the people that I can be like someone for them to like, I guess inspire you guys to know like your body goes through those things to bring this to the world, and it's meant to do it. Like, I have so many stretch marks, guys, and I'm not scared to show them because I feel like there's so many people out there that have a lot of stretch marks too, and they just are so ashamed of it. And it's like, without those stretch marks, he wouldn't have got here. And I tried so much. I feel like you're either gonna get them or you're not. Does Asher already have a sleep schedule, naps during the day in his own bedroom or in your company. Asher does have kind of a sleep schedule down. Nighttime, he does definitely have one, and he sleeps in his own crib. He's been a very independent boy. He doesn't really like to sleep in bed with us at all, so even if we tried to co-sleep, he wouldn't let us. He just likes to sleep on his own. Fellow type 1 mama here, do you think you'll have more kids? Another high-risk pregnancy. I believe I want to have one more naturally and then adopt 2 more. I don't know how that's gonna go. I'm gonna leave it in God's hand though, because we could go to try for another one and we couldn't get pregnant. Like, we never know how it's gonna go. We don't want one anytime soon, but with it being high risk, that is another thing that came into factor. Like, I had to go to the doctor every week. I had to make sure I was eating bless you. I had to make sure I was eating very, very low carb, and I had to monitor my blood sugars like really closely. But it was about taking care of my body, but it was more importantly like taking care of him, making sure that he was good. My pregnancy, I feel like so many people are not worried because their baby's inside of them and safe, and like that is a thing that they are inside of you and safe. But like being a diabetic, you think about all the risks that go into it, and I feel like I was just so ready for him to get here so that I didn't have to worry about my diabetes affecting him at all. A lot of these questions have to do with like my diabetes and pregnancy, so I probably will make another video on just like diabetic and pregnancy Q&A. How was giving birth personally, like on your standpoint? How did Christian handle it? Giving birth on my standpoint was nothing like I pictured it to be. Christian did a lot better than I think he thought he would do too with it all, because it happened so fast that there was no time to think or act on it. It was just like we had to go and we had to do it all immediately. We had a induction scheduled for that following Monday. I had him on Wednesday, October 26th, and I was supposed to be scheduled for an induction that Monday the 31st. We were supposed to have a Halloween baby, but it did not go as planned, and that day I went to the doctor. She checked me and she saw that I was already dilated to almost a 3, and she had felt my water sac. So she knew at any point I could go into labor, and I feel like they tell that to a lot of people. So I was like, oh, okay, like let's just go for a nice 2-mile walk and we'll just like relax, and if it happens, it happens. Well, we put up all of our Christmas decor. Yes, in October, we put up all of our Christmas decor that day, and I went to go lay in bed. It was like 11:30 at night, and I got in bed and felt like my insides popped, and I got up and like water started gushing out of me, and I was like, oh my gosh, Christian, like we have to go now. And he was like freaking out. He was running around. He literally just went to bed, so he was in his boxers and he was running around the house like freaking out, like grabbing everything. And I'm like, no, don't worry, like labor lasts so long, there's no way that like it's gonna be like right away. We have time to get there. I wasn't feeling the contractions yet, which is crazy because so many people were like, how were you at a 3 and not feeling the contractions? I had a lot of like back pain that day. I guess it probably was back contractions, but I didn't really think anything of it because he was so low. I've had a lot of back pain during my pregnancy. But then we get to the hospital and we're checking into the ER, and they start to hit me, and I'm like, oh no, this is not good. And then we get in our room and they're like asking me, they're like, are you sure that your water broke? Like, what were you all doing? Like, were you trying to get it to break? Did you all have sexy time? I'm like, no ma'am, like I literally was going to bed and my water broke, and I know it was my water. And then it finished breaking in my bathroom of the ER, and it just was really bad. We get in our room, the doctor comes in and checks me, and I'm at a 6, and the contractions are starting to hit, and they are hurting really bad at this point. And she's trying to get my lab work, and they're like, okay, would you like an epidural? And I'm like, yes, please. This pain is unbearable. And I like was trying to focus in on my breathing, and that did help me a lot because I just would sit there and breathe, and anytime someone asked me something, I would honestly just tell them to shut up. I just like couldn't answer it. They were like, okay, we'll get your lab work sent off and then we'll come back and give you your epidural. But they didn't mention that it was gonna take 30 minutes to get my blood work back before they could even give me the epidural. So then I'm like, the pain is unbearable. I'm like, can y'all give me anything? And then I proceed to like go into labor super fast, and they're giving me something to slow down labor. it was not working. I was up to an 8 and I was like, oh man, like it's gonna come soon. The contractions were getting heavier and heavier and I felt the need to like have a big poop or throw up. And she checked me and I was at a 10 and they're getting the steriles out and I'm like, guys, I have to push. And like, no. And it was like, I just instantly felt like I needed to push right away. They get him up there and I'm pushing for like maybe 5 minutes and they're like, okay, we're gonna have to get the vacuum because he's like getting stuck in his breathing. So they did have to use the vacuum on him. But after 14 minutes of pushing in the vacuum, he came out. Yes, but he had a lot of breathing issues at the beginning. And of course, he did come at 36 weeks. So they took him to the NICU. They laid him on me for like 5 seconds and took him away. And it was very heartbreaking. I literally just felt like I delivered a baby and gave it away. It was really hard to go through that, wasn't it? And then I got stitched up. I only had a 2nd-degree tear. So that was really good. What change in your body has been the hardest to accept? I feel like the weight gain wasn't the hardest to accept, but it was like more of like a I let myself down kind of thing because I didn't exercise as much as I should have during my pregnancy. Weight gain during pregnancy. I gained like 60 pounds. I gained a lot of weight. And half of it I blame on myself because I could have done a lot better with working out. And when I was allowed to have like not bad food, but like cheat meals, I would do it because of course I was pregnant. Breastfeeding. We breastfed for a month and then we just couldn't do it no more. I wasn't producing enough. We were going through the colicky stage. It's currently eating my thumb. Is that yummy? And it was just a lot at the time because I didn't actually like breastfeed. I exclusively pumped. Where he was in the NICU for those 4 days, it really set us back because he wouldn't latch. He had a tongue tie that they had to clip and it just was not helping at all. They didn't even ask me in the hospital beforehand if they could feed him a bottle, and they went ahead and like did the bottle feeding and stuff. So it was a lot of work. We tried the nipple shields and he just would get so mad. So we just exclusively pumped for a month until I wasn't producing enough for him. How did you handle the pain with contractions? I'm terrified. I feel like it's really different for everyone. I focused on my breathing. I think I watched a video there's so many things I watched on YouTube about controlling your breathing. Like just sit there and focus on your breathing. Don't think about when is this contraction gonna be over and I'm gonna get the next one. Just focus in on it and it'll go away really fast. I wanted an epidural badly. How did you deal with not being able to if you wanted? It was really hard, but I will say the contractions are the worst part. Pushing, it was just trying to figure out how to push. It wasn't like it was a lot of pain. Like when I pushed and he came out, there was like no pain. The contractions are so painful that you're ready to push because it's like, okay, we're almost there. The pain is not bad at all. It wasn't for me and I had no medication. So I feel like since I did want an epidural and I couldn't get one, in the end, I was much more happier because I didn't have to go through the pain of like the back problems that come with an epidural. Another question was, will I be going unmedicated on my next birth? I feel like I'm gonna wanna try because they say your second baby comes faster than your first. Yeah, and I don't know how I'm gonna have a baby faster than 2 hours on our next one, but you know, if we do, I mean, I probably will go unmedicated again, but the hardest part is literally the contractions. How was your experience with the NICU? Very, very traumatizing. I would never wish on anyone to go through the NICU. It's like you give birth, your baby is taken away, and they go in there, and it's honestly sad to think they just sit in there, like not alone, there's the nurses in there, but they have to care for all the other babies too, that it's like you have to go visit your child, and there's a schedule of the times you can go in and go out of the NICU to visit. You can't bring them to your room at any time, and it's just really hard. Trying to get one-on-one time, you have to get in this little cubicle thing wrapped around you. We did a video about it. It was just really hard on my mental health, that part was, because I went home that day without a baby. Like on day 2 or 3 that you're released from the hospital, I went home without a baby, and it was so hard. So hard going home without a baby. Did you experience any postpartum hair loss? Some of it I did, not a lot though, I feel like, compared to other moms. What was the hardest part about giving birth? The hardest part was the contractions. Like, those were the worst. After experiencing your first birth, would you do it again? Definitely. I feel like even though it was very fast paced and kind of like traumatizing at the same time, I feel like it was also really nice because it happened so fast that it was just like done and over with. Did you have any boundaries for birth or postpartum with seeing baby? Yes. And we still do. With COVID and sickness going on, I was very like only immediate family, and it was only immediate family. Still, family that I have to this day has never met Asher because the sicknesses and the way that people don't take sicknesses seriously scares me. And where he broke his clavicle when he came out, I was scared of people holding him the way they should and being around that. But I think we're just now hitting the stage of like getting more comfortable. What's been your favorite stage of Asher so far? Right now. Right now is my favorite part. 2 months. The beginning was like we had maybe a newborn for what, 2 weeks? And then he got colicky and that was not fun. And now we're at the happy little talky stage. Do you feel guilty about not breastfeeding? I did, and I had a couple breakdowns because that was right after he got colicky, and I blamed myself for it, and I was like, it's because I can't produce enough milk. I should have tried harder. I should have done more. And I was like, you know what? He's happy. The formula's working for him. You know, a fed baby is all that matters. So I always encourage moms to do what's best for their mental health. What would you do differently second time around? I don't know. It all happened so fast. I would just hope that our next baby will not have to go to the NICU. I know Asher came quickly for you. Did you tear it all? Yes, I tear to a 2nd degree, but it wasn't bad at all. Like the pain was like minimal. Are you feeling back to yourself yet? Wait, would you say yeah? I feel like yeah. I feel almost 100% back to myself. Does it hurt the first time after giving birth? I don't think it did really hurt the first time. I think it was all kind of like still like tight. It was really tight from the stitches and everything going back. I would say it was just awkward. Did you just break that? I just broke it. It was like very just awkward feeling down there. It didn't hurt, and it was like weird because like I feel like when you're pregnant, you either like really crave, you know, sexual stuff or you don't. And my pregnancy was not like that. Like, how long had it been? Like months. Like months before. So waiting like 6 weeks again, it felt really good, honestly, for me because we hadn't like done anything in over like 5 months probably.
Waiting for marriage.
It was like waiting for marriage. And everything did go back to normal and feels the exact same down there. So if you're worried about that, for me, everything went back and we all good. Did the 75 hard help your body bounce back from postpartum? 100%. I knew doing that would help me mentally and physically get back into my better like eating habits, working out, actually pushing myself to do better things as a mom. Was the whole birthing process what you imagine it would be like? Quite opposite, actually. We had it all planned. You know, we were gonna go in and start Pitocin for an induction. Had my cute little mama gown, and I was ready to take pictures and just like soak it in, and it'd be hours of just like waiting around. And then literally I was stuck in the hospital gowns giving birth after 2 hours of my water breaking. So it all happened really fast. I feel like if he didn't have to go to the NICU, it would have been a lot more enjoyable moment, and like so happy that it happened really fast. But it kind of felt like a 4-day long birth process because he was in the NICU for 4 days, and I literally would sit in the hospital room and pump every 3 hours, take it to him, come back because you weren't allowed to stay in there for so long. Then you weren't allowed to go at certain points to see him, and it was just very hard. What was your first thought when Asher was born? That he had a lot of hair, and he was super long, and he was only 7 pounds. I feel like they tell most diabetics that you're gonna have a big O baby. Well, that is all of our questions for today. Like I said, I am gonna film a diabetic video about diabetes and pregnancy, so that will be coming soon. So we'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for all your questions. Don't forget to subscribe. Peace out.